All right, so what we've got here is a roller blind with the great chain system, which really makes the blind easy to pull up and down. Very simple. Now, it's very hard for the chain to come off if used properly. If used properly, the chain really should be pulled straight up and down in line with the blind. But what will happen is occasionally some people will reach over, or kids will use it, and they'll pull the blind on a little bit of an angle. Now what this can do is the chain will get caught in the top cog, and it becomes quite hard to pull, so you know that you're actually sort of doing the wrong thing. If you keep pulling, eventually the chain will pop off the mechanism and you no longer can control the blind. So first of all, what we need to do is just grab this little plastic wheel here, and it'll spin in one direction. Might be a little bit hard to grab, but just spin it around and it'll eventually get to a point where the pin will retract and it'll stay enclosed. So that means you can simply slide the blind off the bracket and then pull it away from the control end, and the control end will simply come off the little pin on the other bracket. As easy as that. Then what you might like to do, if your blind is in the down position still, maybe just roll it up until it's all one nice little roll, so it's easier to move around. So we now have our blind and we have our chain now, which we've removed from the blind. So just put that to the side. Now the end that the chain goes on, you have the control mechanism. Now that should simply just pull out of the end of the blind. Very, very easy. Now what you'll see is inside here we have a little screw. Now we need to remove this screw with a Phillips screwdriver, which will remove this little cap on the end of the mechanism, which means we'll then be able to put the chain back on. So we'll just remove the screw. Should only take a couple of turns. And then what you'll find is the mechanism will pull apart. Okay, so simply just grab your chain, put it back onto the grooves where the chain sits, push the cap back on, and once you've done that, put the screw back into the middle and line the screwdriver up. It should be easy, there we go, and tighten the screw back up. While you're doing that, it's a good idea just to hold your finger on the other end, because this part can slide out once the screw is released, so just sort of keep a bit of a grip on that while you remove the screw. Now, once we've done that, it's basically just a matter of sliding this back into the tube, like so. Give it a bit of a tap to get it in. And now we have the chain back on, and we're right to go to put the blind back up onto the brackets. Okay, so we now have our blind with our chain back on. It's just a matter of simply putting it back up on the brackets. One thing to remember is the little wheel that we retracted earlier to take it down, just give it a bit of a flick and the pin will pop back out. This pin is spring loaded and will be sliding into this bracket at the end. So what we have to do first is to slide the control mechanism end back onto the bracket here. And it is important to make sure that the top of the mechanism here stays at the top when you put it on the blind. We don't want to install the blind with this piece at the side or the front because the chain won't run smoothly through the mechanism. So we simply keep that at the top, line the hole up with the pin on the bracket. You may have to just wobble it left and right slightly to line it up. And then the right hand side, we just push the pin on the slot and it slides back on. And we have our blind operating as good as new.